And good evening. Welcome to the University of Dubuque Football Show. Coach Stan Zweifel joining us here from the University of Dubuque football offices. The final show of the season as the University of Dubuque lost in their final game of the year to a very good Central College team, 24-21 at Chalmers Field. And we're going to talk with Coach Zweifel about the season, recap the ball game from Saturday, and then recap the season a little bit. But Coach, tough 24-21 loss to Central ends your season. You got off to a slow start, 17-0. Central jumped out on top. You righted the ship and took the lead eventually, but Central took the lead back and ended up winning.
Yeah, it was an interesting game, Tim. They started out fairly fast, scored on their first possession. We didn't do much in the first quarter offensively to stymie that, and then they scored again, and they eventually got up 17-0, and it looked, holy cow, maybe we're not going to be able to do what we've done in the past, but we scored just before the end of the second quarter, and then I thought a real important play happened in that game. They got the ball and drove it down to our 3 or 4 yard line, and reminiscent, in my mind, I see Cole being replayed in that game. Cole got down to our 2 or 3 yard line in the first half and really kind of screwed around a little bit and ended up not having enough time to kick the field goal. In this instance, they took a couple shots and did a couple things I thought was really interesting, and then they kind of rushed out their field goal team, and we blocked their field goal to end the half. And when we went in at half, Tim, we really had some momentum about stopping and making it 17-7 and putting ourselves in a situation there. Hey, we're back in the game, and we were going to have the wind in the third quarter. And we had a really spirited halftime exchange. Our players and our coaches, very positive in the locker room, very excited, very optimistic in that. So that part for us really, I thought, played into it. Then we got out. It became 17-14, and then we got back ahead. Now it's 21-17, and boy, do we feel like we got a shot to win this game. And I think, really what happened, I told the team afterwards, at the end of the game, we kind of ran out of time more than we ran out of getting beat. We really felt there was going to be a great opportunity for us to win, and unfortunately, as the game waned on, we had to use our timeouts to get the ball back from Central, and then we got the ball back, and we just ran out of time, Tim.
Let's talk about just before you went into the locker room at halftime, back up a little bit. They jumped after that 17-0 lead, but then responded on a really nice drive, that 9-play, 81-yard drive that ended with the touchdown pass to Jenkins. So,
yes.
Again, that put you with some good momentum going in.
We had a number of conversions on that drive, and we had a couple to weight sheets, and then Coach Hookstead called a great play on getting an isolation with our tight end on what we call our angle read route, and we got a safety matched up on Jenkins, and Ben made a really nice throw, and Ben got better as the game went on. Again, he was a little bit over 65% with 3 TDs again. He's had an outstanding season. I think he really is like our football team, Tim. It's been very resilient, even when we've been in big holes or things that don't look good for us. We've been able to find a way to either be better offensively, better defensively, and do some things. And I do want to mention this at this time. Our defense has had just a heck of a year. Did a great job against Wartburg, held them underneath their average by I don't know how many, 20-some points. We held Central to their lowest output. We held Wartburg to their lowest yards. We really have played very good defensive football. And as I told you, Tim, one of the things we've really been very pleased with our second and third level play in our defensive. Our secondary and our linebackers have played really well. And although Central ran the ball on us a little bit on Saturday, it's really been what we've done all year, Tim. We've given up some yards, but boy, we've done a great job in the red zone. We've done a great job when they get in scoring position to really hold people out of scoring points against us.
Mm-hmm. One of the big differences was the rush game.
Yes.
Central had 151 yards rushing and was able to move the ball a little bit on the ground, and that had you on your heels just a little bit.
Tim, we talked about on last Monday night that they had not rushed the ball in the last 3 games. They were just really throwing it a lot. uncharacteristically much more than they have in the past. Last year, they really got after us in the run game, and when the game started, I kind of said to Coach Huberty, our D coordinator, Coach, I think they're trying to do the same thing they did against us last year. We're a little bit light in the box to take away some of their throw game, especially their quick throw game on the edge. Their bubble screens and their now screens was just to stand up and throw to the edge. So we're getting guys out of the box a little bit, and I think they had a plan for when we did that, and they continue to try to run the ball up inside. Had a lot of success at it, Tim. I think their back is outstanding. He's one of the most physical backs in the league. He reminds me a lot of the Cole running back, a thick kid built low to the ground, about 220 pounds. And their offensive line, I thought, played their best game run blocking of the season when I watched the game on Saturday night. And Sunday morning, I just thought they probably played the best they had played, very physical. But all that being said, we were able to find a way to put ourselves back in a position to win the game.
Yeah, the third quarter, I mean, you really dominated that third quarter, back-to-back touchdown drives, touchdown passes to Bryce and Sheets from Ben Goltig, and I'll put you up at that time, 21-17. You had to be feeling pretty good.
Yeah, the second touchdown to Bryce, I watched that a couple times. It was what we call the drive smash route, where the guy, the width comes underneath, and we try to take our interior receiver and match up against either a linebacker or a safety, and we got the matchup. And Ben threw a perfect pass into the corner of the end zone to make it 17-14. And then we had hit Wade on our next possession. We had hit Wade on a number of intermediate passes, some hooks, some what we call swords, which is kind of a wrap route to the middle. But we did a hook and go, where we set up what we call a stutter. Well, it looks like we're going to do one route. That's kind of an intermediate route, and we converted it into a deep route. It was a perfect call by Coach Hookstead. Went for a touchdown, and boy, I felt the momentum at that time was really going to give us a chance to win. But hats off to Central. They got back into running the ball and got back into driving the ball down a little bit, and they were able to make some big plays on us, and that ended up being the result of the winning touchdown for them.
Yeah, 13-play, 65-yard drive for them. They missed a field goal as well during that fourth quarter, and then unfortunately, a couple of turnovers in the final 5 minutes. One was kind of a desperation time at the end that almost worked for a winner.
We'll speak about that, but it's really kind of interesting in that part of it. We lost some field position, Tim, in the fourth quarter via our kicking game, and not necessarily our punt game, our kickoffs. We kicked 2 out of bounds. And that happened in the third quarter, and people say, well, that's no big deal. Yeah, it is, because it flips the dang field on you, and you really got more yards and more time that you have to do. When it was 24-21, we got the ball back. We got a very fortunate 15-yard gain on a tip ball that Torrey Butts made a great catch on, but we had no timeouts left. We had to use our timeouts to stop the clock so we could get the ball back. We have a play in our repertoire that we call catch and pitch, and it's a play where our tight end comes down, runs kind of a hook route at about 8 to 10 yards, and our 10 yards, and our back kind of swings out, and we pitch the ball on them like you do in the backyard when you're a kid playing football.
It always works in the backyard.
God, you know where I got those things from was Bud Grant back in the early 70s against Cleveland Browns. Their formation was squadron, catch and pitch, and sure thing and payday, and those are the 3 routes we carry. So some of you old guys my age might remember Bud Grant, but that's where we've got those plays from. And I'll be danged, we were talking, Paul and I and you, before we went on the air, it looked like we were going to have a chance to get a pitch and get the thing around the edge and maybe get another chance for a play. But unfortunately, the ball was slightly underthrown. Our tight end had a kind of fumble for the ball and threw the pitch behind our tailback, and they recovered to end the game.
You know, one of the things you were talking about last week was trying to slow Central down a little bit. And you did an okay job, I guess, but still with their time of possession, you had equal time of possession. They ran 16 more plays. That just shows you the quick tempo of offense that they want to run. Yeah,
the up-tempo thing is really an interesting scenario, because if you are able to execute it, man, you can get 90 snaps in a game. We're averaging about 72 snaps, 65 to 72.
Pretty good.
Yeah, in a normal game. When those guys, they go 90, 94, 92, and those kind of things. So you got it. There's two things got to happen, Tim. Number one, you got to stay on the field when you're on offense. That's more important than anything else you do. And then number two, you got to find ways which you can deploy your defense without having to call from the sideline that especially your back seven, can recognize and get lined up against formations. A year ago, oh my God, Tim, it was like I don't even know a submarine with a screen door is what it looked like to me. We had guys just scrambling around trying to get lined up. And they run about 2 or 3 plays, and they're just going to check to make sure that you got lined up right, because if you haven't, they're going to take advantage of you, whether it be a quick pass based on numbers or a run inside the box. We did a much better job, Tim, on that, and we really worked hard during the week to get that done. But again, one of the things about the hurry-up, Tim, you only got a week to prepare for it. You don't see it a lot during the course of the season. We didn't see it the last 3 games. Now you got to get used to that tempo. You got to get used to that pace. You got to get used to that stuff. And your scout team can never simulate what Central's doing when they've run it the whole season. But I thought our defense put in a really, really excellent plan. And just like we've been all year, I think, we've given up some yards inside the 20s, but boy, do we get salty when you get inside our 20-yard line.
A couple of guys that were the top of the tackle chart for you on Saturday, Brock Carter and C.J. Dean, both double-figure, and I believe Brock had a forced fumble, and C.J. had the recovery. Yeah. So it was, 2 good performances by a couple of underclassmen to help spearhead that defense.
Yeah, both sophomores. Brock's a transfer from Missouri State, and C.J. Dean's a transfer from Bemidji State, and we really hit on those 2 kids. Brock's been outstanding all year long for us. I'll be surprised if he's not a first-team all-conference outside backer. He plays that kind of a hybrid position for us. CJ's been a little bit nicked up. He had a little bit of some respiratory problems the 2 weeks previous, and he came back and played an outstanding game, played a really excitable, emotional game for us. And again, we're so dang young, and of course, whatever that means, I'm just telling you that's the fact of where we are. We met this morning as a staff just to look about recruiting needs and so forth. We have 16 or 17 starters, depending on how you're looking at it, coming back. And of 5 guys who aren't, we've had 3 part-time starters who've been there. We've started a ton of sophomores and some juniors. We really think that we could be really good next year, but got to get through the weight room, got to do spring, all that stuff. But we have a number of good players coming back.
Coach, any final thoughts on the Central game before we take our break and recap the season a little
That
bit?
one really hurts. It really did, Tim. I had told you I thought we could get that game and finish it with a really nice 5-game road streak, 5-game win streak and that. We started out 1-3, and it would have been remarkable for us to finish up 7-3, but we just weren't able to put that thing together the way we would like. I did tell the team afterwards, as I mentioned before, we were very proud of the way they hung in there. And, there's some really bittersweet things when you lose the last game of the season, Tim. There just is. I felt we played good enough to win, but we didn't. And, of course, so that leaves kind of a bitter taste in your mouth. But it was really a very exciting small college football game.
24-21 was the final as the Spartans fell to 6-4 on the season, 6-2 in American Rivers Conference play. We'll come back, talk more with head coach Stan Zweifel, and wrap up the 2022 Spartan football season when we return on UDSpartans.com. This is the UD Football Show with head coach Stan Zweifel. Back in just a moment. Back on the University of Dubuque Football Show with head coach Stan Zweifel, our final segment for the 2022 season. And Coach, I know bittersweet ending to the season. Your goal every year is to win an American Rivers Conference championship, and you finished second place in the league, 6-2 record in the American Rivers Conference, 6-4 on the season. 7th straight winning season here at the University of Dubuque. And that's something I know that you're proud of, in that second place finish in the American Rivers Conference. Had a great winning streak before the final loss of the season, and this team really found itself and came on as the season got off to a little bit of a rough start.
We did. I think the 1-point loss at Marietta, when we missed 2 kicks that win the football game inside 20 yards, and it is what it is. We didn't get that accomplished, and that's why we lost. And then we had La Crosse and Wartburg in games 2 and 4. Really good football teams, both in the national playoffs. One 9-1, one 10-0. I knew both those games would be very difficult to win, Tim. I knew that. Marietta, I thought we would have got a win on that. But I think one of the things you always think as a football coach, and any coach, I believe, you want to get a little bit better as you move along. You want to be able to evaluate personnel, put them in a position where they can be successful. And then you want to have your team get better, both schemes, execution, technique, play with a little bit, whatever that is that happens. And I think that happened for us. Unfortunately, Tim, second place is not where you want to be. And really one of the things that hurt most about the Central game, it's one of the games that I look at our school, that's our rival. That's a school that we want to beat because of what they've done traditionally in the league for a long period of time. And they've been very, very successful. So when you measure yourself against those guys, that win would have been a really good measuring stick for us where we are right now. Visiting with the squad today, we had our last meeting today. You know, we go on a Thanksgiving break next Friday for a week, which whatever that is, I guess that's what we've got. So we're gonna not see them for a while, and then we come back and we got 2 weeks of school and we're at Christmas break. And so one of the things hard about it is you leave your team with a loss, you don't get to spend a lot of time with them. And then I would say this, Tim, as I told our staff and our squad this afternoon, you know, we are really a good football team at skill. Defensive backs, wide receivers, quarterbacks, RBs, linebackers. The thing that I noticed more this year than anything else about what separated us from the Wartburgs, the La Crosses, and Centrals of the league is our overall team strength. And you develop team strength in the weight room. And you develop team strength in the weight room over a long period of time. It can't be 4 weeks, it can't be 6 weeks, it can't be 8 weeks. It's got to be a long, concentrated effort. Unfortunately for our schedule that we have at UD, it really makes it very, very difficult to get extended periods of times in the weight room. So we have to rely on our student athletes when they're not with us, whether that be in the summer and or in these breaks that we have in Thanksgiving, Christmas, and spring, which come about every 6 weeks. We have to rely on our kids to be able to get that done. And we try to impress upon them this afternoon about, you know, you have got to be invested in this aspect of our football program, because that's what I believe is separating us from being the Wartburgs and beating the Centrals of the conference, is our overall team strength, especially in the offensive and defensive lines.
Mm-hmm. Saturday was senior day, so final game for just 5 seniors on your roster, but Tyler Guyman, Todd Simmons, Nicholas McGee, Trey Samafua, Alex Mathias, those are guys that played their final game.
Yeah, you know, and 3 of those 5 had only been with us for a year. So we have, like I said, Tim, we really feel like our best is coming up yet. But again, you gotta make sure that they're in the weight room. You gotta make sure they're taking care of business academically. I'm really looking forward to spring because I think we'll be farther ahead because we had such a young, new team. When I say young, new to our system, a lot of transfers and those kind of things. So hopefully we can retain those guys and put ourselves in a position to be a better football team from the get-go next fall than we were this year.
Mm-hmm. Some of the highlights mentioned, you know, that long winning streak you had after, and you're right, in position for possibly a conference championship on the final day, but some quality wins over two very good
Yes.
Co and Loris football teams
Yeah.
along the way.
Both teams, Co was 6-2 with us, and that was really a game that I thought showed our mental toughness. And then Loris was just boy, that was an interesting game. I was watching some of that yesterday. Don't ask me why. I guess the season's over. I'm being reminiscing. But I watched some of that tape yesterday, and I thought the mood swings, the emotional ups and downs in that game really, again, showed a little bit of our toughness that we've been able to develop over this season. Again, I think everything in small college football, we don't get them very long, Tim. We get them for 14 weeks when we start the season in August till now, and then we don't get them again until March 20th, and we only have them for 4 weeks then. So that time that they're not with us, which is longer than they're with us, that is essential for our kids to be able to develop in the weight room and do those kind of things. So I'm excited about seeing what's going to happen in our weight room and how we're going to get better that way. But it's a very important aspect. Sometimes as a coach you don't look at. And then, of course, starting yesterday after the game, you're starting recruiting. And recruiting in Division III is becoming more and more competitive every year. And that's recruiting is the lifeblood of your football program. You've got to continue to bring in players that can help you win, but also be good enough to replace the good players as they leave, and be able to beat guys out where there isn't your best position. So we've started on that process, and that process will take us to August when we start again.
Mm-hmm. 3 of your 4 losses were to quality teams, 2 that are in the playoffs, and those 3 losses to La Crosse, Central, and Wartburg home games, but you ended up with a 4-1 road record.
Yeah, that's it, because usually we've been pretty tough at home. And again, I think that always depends on who the hell you're playing, right? At home and who the heck you're playing on the road, right? The one that, I think Wartburg and La Crosse were going to be tough games, Tim, no matter what. I knew Central would be but the Marietta game kind of comes back to haunt me a little bit on that part. And Marietta, I think, ended up being 6-4 in the Ohio Athletic Conference. I think that might be one of their best years they've had also. And that was a very competitive game, but one you like to kind of win. I'm not saying that's anything other than that game was a game that we could have won, but then you could say we could have lost to Co, could have lost to Loris, and we were able to find ways to win. I think over the course of a season, there's going to be some breaks that are for you and some breaks that are against you. What you'd like to do with your team is be able to keep your poise, keep your mental toughness, do those kind of things to give you the best chance to win when you do have an opportunity to win.
Wartburg College will be the American Rivers Conference representative in the playoffs, and they play Wisconsin La Crosse first round. You got a chance to see both those teams firsthand, so
both close up.
That's going to be a dogfight.
It's going to be a really defensive-minded game. I think it's going to be interesting because the temperatures appear to be very cool in Waverly, and I looked at all the first-round games. That game in Bethel and Wheaton appear to be some really strong games, along with Mary Hardin Baylor down there. I think they have maybe Hardin Simmons or Trinity. I can't recall one of those two. But those 3 first-round games are usually maybe quarterfinal games. So it'll be a very competitive game when that thing gets going on Saturday.
Coach, any final thoughts before we let you go for the 2022 football season here on the UD Football Show?
Let's get spring started soon. That's all I can tell you.
When does that get underway on the calendar?
About March 17th.
March 17th. All right. Coach, it's been a pleasure.
Tim, always.
Thank you so much for your insight each and every week, and joining us on the UD Football Show, and we'll look forward to next season when it rolls around.
Absolutely.
All right. Head coach Stan Zweifel, head coach at the University of Dubuque, joining us for final time for the 2022 football season. We'll come back and have some final thoughts on the UD Football Show, but first, Executive Director at the Heritage Center on the University of Dubuque campus, Tom Robbins, wants to talk about some big Christmas shows coming up and more at the Heritage Center.
Hello again, everybody. Tom Robbins here at UD Heritage Center, and we've got some great holiday events coming up here soon on the Butler Hall stage. First, the time-honored tradition of Christmas at Heritage Center takes the stage with choir, band, organ, and strings in a wonderful concert celebration of our Lord's birth. This 10th anniversary performance is guaranteed to put you in the Christmas spirit. Join us Friday, December 2nd for this perennial holiday favorite showcasing the impressive talents of UD's music students and faculty. Next up is a national touring production of Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol. New Hampshire-based Perseverance Productions brings this iconic tale to Dubuque for one night only, Monday, December 5th. This new twist on an old classic features a large cast, lush costumes, stunning sets, puppetry, a timeless message, and 26 beloved Christmas carols accompanied by flute, guitar, and violin. It's a large-scale production you don't want to miss, A Christmas Carol, Monday, December 5th at Heritage Center. There are also a handful of tickets available for the Texas Tenors Deep in the Heart of Christmas, presented by the Dubuque Arts Council on Saturday, December 10th. And don't forget, we recently announced a new event coming to Heritage Center. Facebook and TikTok phenomenon from the Manitowoc Minute and comedian extraordinaire Charlie Behrens is coming on Friday, March 31st at 8 p.m. And tickets for this show and many others would make a great stocking stuffer. For tickets, you can call our box office 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Monday through Friday at 585-SHOW. That's 585-7469, or online anytime at dbq.edu/Heritage Center. Happy holidays from all of us here at Heritage.
And thanks to Tom Robbins, Executive Director of the Heritage Center. And again, you can get your tickets for any of those shows on the University of Dubuque campus on the website. Just look up the Heritage Center and you can order them right online there, or contact the ticket office for more information. Thanks for tuning in for UD football shows here on Monday evenings after Spartan football the Saturday before. Again, thanks to head coach Stan Zweifel for joining us, and we'll look forward to UD football show next season. More broadcasts coming up on udspartans.com as the winter sports season getting into full stride. Women's basketball will be the next broadcast coming up on Saturday after Thanksgiving, November the 26th. And then, of course, men's basketball, full slate of home games, and also the road games they'll have links to. Also Spartan wrestling and indoor track. And so you can follow Spartan athletics on udspartans.com. Again, thanks for joining us on this Monday night for the UD Football Show. I'm Tim Lary. Have a great Monday evening.